It's going to be GNiK versus ZenAku for our next matchup here for week 2 of stage 4 of Quake Pro League. ZSX, what do we think of it?
Interesting. I think we just spoke about it in the break. This is time for revenge for the Australian that managed to knock out the Canadian from the last decider matchup they went up against. So definitely expecting GNiK to come back fighting. I think he's looked better and more confident and just generally happier in his play style since coming back into the league, and definitely, more content. So expecting things from him because he's someone I enjoy watching. I felt that he didn't feel himself back in stage 2 when he got knocked out. Sorry,
he did seem quite uncomfortable, didn't he?
Yeah.
And considering he played really well and confidently at the stage 1 finals too, it was very uncharacteristic to see just a change in his style. But we're saying this about GNiK as well, but I think the same can be said about ZenAku, who the entire of last stage just had to find his footing. Across every single week, he was getting inches by inches better and better, but still couldn't quite reach that pinnacle, and almost every single week he played, he just looked out of his comfort zone almost. And that, again, is looking a little bit different in stage 4. So can we expect the same kind of result and the same kind of matchup as to when these players last went head-to-head? I don't think so.
It's obviously a different change in conditions as well. It was on LAN when they met, and now it's very much online. So that will obviously play a factor for both, for better or for worse. And as you rightly said, back then it was definitely ZenAku on the up and GNiK not looking himself. So they're both adapted and look more comfortable and confident. So I'm hoping to see some big things coming out.
But one of the big things about ZenAku, I guess no pun intended, is that he likes those large champions. How many times do we watch ZenAku? If there's one player across almost everyone in the lineup for the weekly QPL, I almost feel like ZenAku is the one player that you would absolutely bet we're going to see a large champion from him. There's just something about them that he's consistently been just using on a weekly basis. And, you'll see again today, he picks them twice across 2 different maps. He really likes those big bodies, doesn't he?
He does. He's built his play style around them, and he can play a bit slower and more positional, obviously to avoid taking unnecessary damage. And then when he sees his opening, to use that stack advantage to get in your face and take fights to his opponents. So he's not afraid to go mano a mano, but he's adapted. He enjoys having the stack, and when it works, it really does work. And he obviously has a slight conditional disadvantage being in Poland, and so it's maybe part of why he's been forced to develop that, but he makes it work. Whereas GNiK is someone who prefers to play faster, tempo and aggression, and so that actually conflicts obviously with the heavier champions. He can get on top of them and deal a considerable amount of damage because mechanically he's a solid player.
And when he's confident too, the results just really start to shine through for a player like GNiK. So when he's in his element and he's playing well, it's quite scary. It's quite a scary thing to see.
For sure. Very much. Kind of similar to Sparty in a way. Quite inconsistent, very momentum-based, confidence-based, and if he hits his shots, as you rightly say, he can hit his stride, and then he becomes quite a difficult force to stop that momentum, even for the very best players.
So we should have the picks and bans real soon so we can see what the journey's going to be. I know we touched very, very briefly on ZenAku and his larger champion choices. If memory serves, we should see actually GNiK going in with a Keel though, which is going to be exciting to see. We should have the picks and bans actually right now, funnily enough. Ruins of Sarnath is going to be first, Awoken, and then Blood Covenant. But let's really look at these champion picks as well. We have the Scale Bearer versus the Slash, the Keel versus the Sorlag, and then GNiK, but he is all about that fast-paced aggression. We have the Athena up against the BJ, so excited for this one, that's for sure.
Yeah, Slash for GNiK is pretty much his favorite pick, and it can really take apart the heavy champions when you get that momentum. But Scalebearer is somebody that is ZenAku's favorite pick as well, and has the speed in his name for somebody that can play him very, very effectively. So you need to play very positional. It'll be difficult in Ruins, but holding those choke points, if GNiK's running into him, he's going to find trouble. Awoken, the Keel pick, is a little bit more unusual, but we've seen it coming through prominence, and it does bully the Sorlag as well, and has the stack to match up against the Lizard. And as you rightly said, Athena on Blood Covenant is pretty much the meta pick at the minute. Incredibly strong if you're playing well, but the Blazkowicz isn't a bad counter, but can be found vulnerable with the lack of maneuverability.
Do it in the past, where the strength of, like, if you're caught in a position where you've not got a railgun but you've got dual wield and you're trying to fight for like a mega and you've got the heavy machine gun, like dual wield heavy machine gun can be quite a nice little option from those ranges where you would normally want to use a rail. So I guess we'll find out how that final map goes. We've just loaded into Ruins of Sarnath, and it could be the unstoppable force versus a movable object kind of deal here, where if GNiK isn't like checking those corners and he's almost going a little bit too fast and he goes smack bang right into ZenAku, and ZenAku's got stack and, you know, a rocket launcher or something, then it will open up for some interesting exchanges, I think.
Absolutely. That's the one thing he needs to be wary of. He will want to play on the outskirts of the map, trying to forge angles to chip away at the scale bearer. You need to make sure that you keep on top of the heavy champion stack because of the big differences between the two. And if you can do that, then the scale bearer suddenly becomes a very, very vulnerable opponent. If you can't, as you rightly say, you're going to run into an immovable object and just face death. But starting here on GNiK.
And just look at the stack difference already, by the way. Yeah. I think that's potentially a list of things to come. The light versus the heavy is always going to be that kind of ordeal, but I'm checking things out from ZenAku first to really see how he handles this. No rocket in hand, but he's well on the way. That missed rail was at the very least going to give GNiK's position away. But speaking of position, we are set up for the first set of items. Plasma Trail gets used for GNiK. He's used it maybe a little bit early here. He has positioned himself, but damage reduction, not too bad. And it now means he can fight for the heavy as well.
And look at that stack. You can see what he wants to do. He just wants to set up the major items. This is ZenAku through and through. Loves to play items, loves to play methodical. He just wants to stand there and say, if you want to fight me, come fight me, because I have the stack. So, GNiK, they're not going to fall into that, as we said, just going to skirt around the outskirts of the map. Use those audio cues to try and catch your opponent off guard. And if you are going to go mano a mano, you're just going to use your speed to get out, because you can't face up. Look at the damage, but he's still so vulnerable. Look how healthy ZenAku is. This is the problem. GNiK did all the damage, but he's still got nothing to work with. That's why it's so difficult.
It's all ammo being used up too. Hitting all those rails versus a scale bearer and not having the opportunity to get any more ammo for it can be a bit of a nightmare, but...
Well, this is the thing, as a scale bearer, if you take all the items, what can your opponent work with when you have all the full stack? Obviously, catching your opponent is the most difficult thing.
All ZenAku's doing now is just sticking his ear to the ground and listening out for where GNiK's going to be.
GNiK, he can't stick
activated
around.
Just to bully away. At the very least, though, at least GNiK is aware of this, so he knows this is very much you can play duel on this map, right? The fundamental duel, but with these two champions, it just changes things so much that, like, this is a matchup that's going on, right? This is a champion that has so much stack, so much bully potential. It's so hard to fight for these main items when they have a bull rush ready as well. It's so much respect has to be shown, and that's what GNiK is doing so far. But as you can see, I said bully, that's what ZenAku's doing. He's just bullying GNiK away from these points, and he has the rail in hand ready for when you retreat. This was a really well-played start to the map.
Yeah, 100%. And it was... GNiK is just kind of delaying the inevitable, because without getting on major items, what can you do? There's no way you can fight against a stacked scale bearer. So GNiK needs to put more effort into trying dealing exit damage in and around when ZenAku's picking up these major items. At the minute, it's all a bit too easy. GNiK's going to go down again here, 3-0, easiest lead that ZenAku will ever have, as he is stacked to the brim and barely taken any damage until now.
More of these rails coming through as well. Looking great for ZenAku, and GNiK backed into a corner. No escape from there. One of the worst places of any map to get caught, but there's so much pressure on GNiK to make sure that he's hitting all of these shots. But when he's fresh off the spawn, most of the time he hasn't even got a rail.
Because
he's these larger champions.
Delaying it, so this has just got even harder for GNiK.
Does he have the weapons? Oh no! Pasted! ZenAku, the champion of the big bodies right here. Fresh off spawn, GNiK, you've got nothing but a nail gun, and ZenAku knows nothing to fear.
Well, this is the thing as well, that ZenAku can afford to overcommit and take extra amounts of damage just because of that padding, the extra layers he has in terms of pure stack. And when GNiK isn't then getting on any items whatsoever, ZenAku has nothing to fear.
And it's not only the fact that he's getting these frags, it's how he's cementing himself afterwards too that's making a big deal. He's just ruling the entirety of the map. GNiK, the second he makes his presence known, he's taken more damage. And even if they go even, I mean, it's all about the stack. It's nothing that ZenAku has to really worry about. He knows the teleport has been used, but great, that means I can run in and take the heavy again.
But I think, well, I mean, it's ZenAku's playstyle is pretty... Yeah, it's very methodical, but it's also fairly standard. So GNiK can manipulate that to his advantage if he wants to, you know, holding the low ground when you know he's going to jump down. He just plays that standard rotation. This time he did manage to force him off of that major item. GNiK gets his second major item in the game. 4.5 minutes in, and he's only got 2 megas and 0 heavies.
Contrast that to the 9 heavies and 7 megas. I mean,
exactly.
At the very least, GNiK, because of how he has been forced to retreat, like, he's not been completely out of armor. All the lights have gone to him, but ZenAku doesn't care about the lights. More rockets. Oh, dear, that one.
We talked at the very start about how ZenAku's built his playstyle around heavies. You can see what he's doing. He's creeping around the map, working his way into a major item position without taking any damage, and then when it's safe, he picks it up and charges you. So... it's definitely molded the way he likes to play. Oh no.
That was a disgusting combo. Ready for the teleporter and then the 2-piece into shotgun and bull rush. Oh my word. Okay, another free frag right here, GNiK. You're in the wrong part of town, my friend. That one's going to be a free pickup for ZenAku. 8-0. This has been a one-sided map, 100%, and the shots have been great too. Looking for the rail. And gets another one. GNiK. Oh.
And the thing is, the scale error as well. It's quick. Like when you play him as effectively as ZenAku, it's pretty hard to actually get away as a slash. So it's not like that speed advantage is really there. Obviously, Slash is quicker, but not by a huge amount. Oh no! Oh no!
Wait, he's still going to get the frag. Surely not. Oh no, he missed the shot! GNiK missed the shot! The fact that ZenAku still managed to get that frag, how? What? Why?
That was bizarre. 10-0, 6 minutes in. GNiK still, with only 3 major items to his name at all. Oh, and he misses that as well.
Can't even get the mega.
Poor GNiK, that is painful.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. He knows what ZenAku's going to do. He's going to drop down onto you. He likes to play that standard rotation. He's got the same pathing every single time. So you need to work that around because you know what your opponent's doing. Yes, it's difficult to stop, but at least you have that information, predictive as it is.
But he's towards heavy. Hasn't really got an amazing set of weapons. I know he has the bull rush though, so more about get that information first, find out where he is, and we'll play this runaway game. Can we at the very least finally get access to a rocket? Because that's the saving grace here for ZenAku. As long as he's got a rocket, GNiK can't press too heavy. Right now, with a rocket in hand, he takes so much damage, he gets a rail. Oh, we can't get the second shot, but all he has to do at this stage is delay. Make it take forever to get a single frag. Just run away. Be annoying.
But he's won himself the heavy just from the amount of damage that he did before that frag. Yes, GNiK's going to get this heavy armor, but it's not enough. It's really not enough.
Just take his time.
Yeah.
Take the time. Make it so even if GNiK gets a frag here, it's the longest frag he's ever had to earn. 8 frags to get in just over 2 minutes. I mean, extremely, extremely unlikely, especially with damage like that.
Oh,
GG's.
nice.
GG's.
Yeah, this is definitely GG's. There is no way that GNiK can get back into this game, unfortunately. The game just slipped out of hand. He was far too passive for my liking for the first 2 minutes and just gave ZenAku full map control without putting on any self pressure. And then from then on in, it was just kind of the inevitable coming out from the big man as he just ran at poor little GNiK, and GNiK had no retaliation.
At this point, ZenAku, full rush. Use it as long as possible right there. Certainly wasn't to attack, it was to get the damage reduction. So it makes the frag take even longer. It is that long delayed game. And I love watching a player like ZenAku. You know, you pick a champion like Scalebearer who Although he's not,
nice.
he's not completely unlikely to be picked, but when you do, he just brings something different to the table. A little bit of a refresher here for that first map that ZenAku's going to take almost completely one-sided. GNiK just spent the whole map having to play from behind. He had to show so much respect at the very beginning while ZenAku was getting all the items, while he's hitting all the rails. Looking like the end of this map's going to be a bit of a victory lap here for ZenAku, the 1-0. Great way to start things off. If you're in GNiK's position, and GNiK was looking for some revenge, not an amazing way to start things off.
No, the saving grace is going into map 2. He has kill to work with,
yep.
So that stack difference will not count.
Absolutely have to get around the unfortunate business that there were a couple of moments too where GNiK was missing some very unlucky shots, I suppose. Shots that you would normally expect him to land, especially with the rails. Against a larger champion, there is such a massive emphasis on hitting everything because you can't let a single rail go to waste. Not with the health that they have in comparison to you. Not in a matchup like this. And ZenAku is going to breeze through that first map.
Yeah, I think breeze is the right attitude as well. Didn't leave him. I mean, when you're out, he out damaged Slash. That says it all, really. Like, even when you lose,
by quite a significant
heavy
margin too, actually.
Yeah, as a light against a heavy, when you lose, you should be still out damaging your opponent because you have such an easier time obviously hitting them. They got a much bigger stack, but to get out damaged, eek, that's not good.
And so many of these frags, you'll notice just the sequence where it's just beautiful combos. It's often a weapon into a full rush into an SSG finish. A lot of these frags here where you're just forcing an opponent into a position where they kind of can't survive. Fair to assume that when you get pushed down towards that light armor section, yeah, just combos. ZenAku doing a masterclass of how to combo with Scale Bearer throughout the course of that map. 100%. And GNiK just at no point in this match did he look either comfortable or that he had a chance.
Not at all. The tempo of the game and the tone of the game got set for the first 2 minutes where ZenAku took full control from the opening item. GNiK let him pick up the next few items, and from there on in, he made the items, made sure he got a big stack, didn't overcommit, and when he realised his opponent was there for the kill, he went for the kill. We saw from the first 30 seconds the way ZenAku wanted to play. He picked up his items, he got his weapon, and he went and stood on the Mega and said, if you want to get this item, you're going to have to come through me. And GNiK didn't. So he took the items, rotated them, and the pressure was relentless.
Speaking of pressure, ZSX, we're going into Awoken next, but the champions, Sorlag versus Keel. I think it's safe to say we can expect a brawl on a map like this.
I hope so.
It's with these two picks, like, how can it not? There's going to be a lot of damage. Both champions have access to a giant damage output. You've got the grenade, you've got the acid spit. There is going to be the elephant in the room, though, which is a difference. That is where the two champions will be, I think, significantly separated. And GNiK, he's so combat heavy that Keel, a good champion pick for him, all things considered. Where if you're on one of those major items and you get even a rocket launcher, Keel can fight because you just go rocket into grenade. You can shoot the two of them almost completely simultaneously if you've got those kind of tricks on hand. And it's something that's going to matter a great deal against Sorlag with a stack that is even to yours.
No, 100%. I think GNiK needs to have a foothold on this map. He needs to make a statement. Didn't play his game on the previous map, I felt. He let ZenAku play his game. So GNiK definitely needs to pick up the tempo and show us what he can do.
So we're going to launch into Awoken now. I'm personally going to make a shift to GNiK. I want to see how he handles the early Keel game. Looks like almost immediately he's got some good weapons on hand, though. Rocket launcher and rail. You'll need both of those against a large champion. Missing some of the opening shots, but some of those shots definitely come across as, why not? If you have an angle, go for the shot anyway. If you get it, damage. If not, whatever. You would know better off than when you started. But so far, the stack is already chunky and a half.
Yes.
Heavy's about to spawn, and it looks like GNiK's in a better position for it, but not before taking a bunch of rail damage in the meantime. So just trying to fight for it's going to be scary.
Oh, nice rocket stove. He rains down on ZenAku. ZenAku himself takes off the damage. They're going to battle it out, but GNiK doesn't get over to the health in time. It wouldn't have saved him anyway. ZenAku still had a commanding stack. Nice early victory for ZenAku coming out as he maintains map control.
Now here's an opportunity for GNiK. He springs things early, has to put a lot of faith into his grenades. They've done some damage, but not enough to save him. 42 HP, that's all he's got to work with. Whoop! ZenAku was looking to hold that one out a little bit. Made us sweat. Thanks, Banana. We are at least back to 100 health, but it's not going to be enough without any armor. He got such a good fight there too. The damage was so good, but not enough. Again, just the lack of armor really hurt him in that fight.
It did, but you could also see that he wasn't in position. ZenAku managed to get up on the jump pad and into the mega area before GNiK really had a chance. So, yes, he's doing all the damage, but once again, ZenAku's knowing how much he can commit for these major items. He's on position for the heavy. Yes, he's a bit early, but he's the one dealing the damage. And once again, he's got an easy frag. So GNiK needs to... His positioning is not good enough at the moment.
He's going to be really aggressive, GNiK. I'm not sure about that one. He has an SSG, but... Oh, you know what? He didn't get too bad damage there, even with the light.
He's done it. ZenAku here, that's the relentless pressure of a heavy that you can pull out.
I come bearing gifts.
Oh, that's a rail that GNiK doesn't want to take. He's now forced to retreat.
ZenAku's stuck here.
Yeah, it's GNiK... Even if he was in a weird position, it's not really anything GNiK could capitalize on because he had no health. He just had to just bide his time, wait for it to be safe, and then he can at least go and get the mega. Now the objective, armor. Doesn't want to jump down towards any lights because it might be a little bit too predictable. Now at least is the opportunity. He has to get in and out without taking too much of that damage. ZenAku quite rightly was holding out near Banana. LG, the tick over time, acid spit. Yeah, hate to see it.
He was so early for the mega as well. There was still 7 seconds to go when he died, so slight overcommittal there. But once again, he's forcing ZenAku to hit these shots, but ZenAku is responding by hitting them. So at this point, it does feel that GNiK's playstyle isn't working. Very early for the major items, 10 seconds to go. ZenAku's got plenty of time to still restack and get back into a position to deal some sort of damage onto it.
Trying to spam out, but again, GNiK, he's showing a lot of respect to the potential angles that ZenAku can work with. You know, while he's peppering those grenades, he's still making sure he's hiding around a corner. He's still using a wall just in case he has a rail angle. That missed rail could have been scary business, but thanks to the pineapples. Remember, Keel, he can shoot his grenades during those rail cooldowns. It's one of the things that makes him deadly. At no point can you really catch Keel in a position where he can't do damage to you. However, you know, you're talking about positioning all map long, and again, ZenAku is in the place to get a mega over it.
What ZenAku is doing much better at the moment is this pressure in and around the map, where GNiK's just trying to take these big one-off fights, these full frontal committals for major items, but he's already taken boatloads of damage in between them, so definitely needs to work. Once again, it comes down to positioning. He's just been caught off guard because ZenAku's positioning and awareness has been just better to this point.
We haven't seen a lot of these opportunities where GNiK has been able to really make his picks count. Ah, misses the 3-piece combo too. Would have been so much damage, especially with this mega just about to spawn. Potentially somewhat of a tide changer here. He's trying to spam out, get some of that heavy damage. No damage hit its mark, and ZenAku gets an impressive juggle, but he needs a little bit more than that. More shots for GNiK, just not hitting their mark at all. This is really bad news for GNiK. He's missing so many rails here.
Yeah, if he obviously hit those, it'd be a different story, but you have to work around what you're hitting and what you're playing. He's caught ZenAku here, but ZenAku's the one with the white weapons out.
And GNiK's not even in a great position because he's only got one rocket. So even if you wanted to play that distance game, you know, those grenades, a bit of a expensive resource to use just to spam out if you're going to use all of them.
Well, considering that GNiK's been the one on the offensive, he's let ZenAku get away now with a couple of heavies, meaning ZenAku is very healthy. Quite happy to play slow. He's the one with the lead. Doesn't want to overcommit. He's worked his way into position for this mega in time, and GNiK's lost it. He's out of position. So he wasn't aware of ZenAku's positioning, and because of that. So again, ZenAku works his way into a very easy lead.
Yeah, it doesn't really look like ZenAku is having to work particularly hard either. Now, there's just this he's been carrying throughout the entire map. And GNiK, I mean, it really has to be said that considering it is a heavy versus heavy matchup, he's just not really hitting a lot of his shots. And that's giving ZenAku an opening. That's letting him push. It's letting him be aggressive. It's letting him win these fights. And now, GNiK, he tries to force his way towards, but another missed shot resulting in conceding a frag. And not only that, he went in because he doesn't want to give up the Mega, and it wasn't his choice to make by the end of it.
Once again, it came down to the fact that ZenAku had the positioning. GNiK was the one that was forced through a choke point. He did a great job to do so much damage, and yes, he missed the final frag, but he was the one having to battle through a choke point because he didn't work the map earlier.
Looks like more of that coming through again.
Once again, he's in a choke point.
Yeah, he's making his presence known, and he secures a frag for the same reason.
And he's trying to commit for these items, as I said, trying to force these big off fights rather than just dealing damage from range. You know, a bit of machine gun, a bit of spam, a rail. He's just trying to charge in and force a big one-off fight. And I know it's the same point over and over, but it doesn't seem to be changing. This time he has got position early. ZenAku is forced away, and we can see how ZenAku now plays on the defense.
To hit different angles at the very least. Oh no! Almost like a bit of a rebound on that grenade. Not that it mattered, but you don't see that every day.
You can see the difference in play there. Trying to manipulate the angles, hitting damage from range, rather than just committing for the item.
Quite scary though for GNiK. With this light being taken, he's only got 2 HP. This is not an amazing time to get caught off guard, and with even that tri-bolt damage, GNiK choosing to be aggressive first. And ZenAku, he's ready for these angles though, like he's ready for GNiK to try and hit them on him.
So many,
oh my god, so many rails.
And now he knows he's worked with enough rails to force GNiK back. Good response from GNiK though. But GNiK obviously knows the time is ticking away. This is why he's getting even more aggressive than he was earlier in the map, as he is running out of time. There is still just about enough time to make a comeback if he gets a frag next.
If he gets a frag, pretty much run that like right now. There's an opening, but the longer ZenAku delays,
no, that was full.
I mean, I'd go as far to say that even that rocket alone might have just sealed it, because GNiK, he has no health, can't get hit by anything now. Even if he wants to disengage here, it might not even be hit. Oh,
okay.
Dear.
But let's not forget as well, it's a point you raised pre-game. ZenAku has the speed, and this is one of the things where GNiK is struggling with the kill pick, because ZenAku is able to manipulate the map quicker than him. So that's something we haven't talked about a lot, and it has played a big role, I think, as well.
Oh yeah, because I mean, if you're able to zip around the map, you can put yourself in that position so much faster. Keel, he's within the mantle of the heavy champions. He's in that category, but the one thing he doesn't have, which basically everyone else, Sailbearer, Clutch, Sorlag, they can move. He can't.
Well, that's why Keel hasn't been picked so much beyond people like Rafa, because you need to play a really, really strong positional game. You can get caught off guard so quickly, and then you're incredibly vulnerable because how big you are and slow you are. And fortunately for GNiK, he was left vulnerable.
And at this stage, again, it's just assessing what the hell went wrong, really, because ZenAku is going to win this map, and a good win for ZenAku, in fact, because he's been looking for those wins for a while. I know he's looking better and better.
Well, it's commanding as well. It wasn't.
Yeah.
He didn't scrape through these first 2 maps. He has really deserved everything he's got. GNiK doesn't feel like he's turned up to play today, unfortunately. As you pointed out a couple of times, just missing shots we would associate with him hitting. ZenAku played a better all-round game, positionally, fairness, timing. Really, really well played from the Australian.
And it's great, if anything, it's going to be so good for ZenAku's just general morale to secure a win like this, where he was able to dominantly take it. There's so much confidence in what he's doing too, and even after that first map, like he knows what he wants to do, and he's executed it perfectly 2 maps in a row. Now we're going into the final map, of course, but just if you're a ZenAku fan, or if you're a ZenAku himself, you're going to be feeling good about what's been going on.
It doesn't feel like he's been stretched, but when he was under pressure, he responded well. Like there was that in the last kind of 2-3 minutes, GNiK did get control, and then we saw ZenAku manipulating 3 or 4 different rail angles in the space of 10-15 seconds, just catching GNiK off guard time after time after time. So he just looks confident and in the zone at this time.
Now, things are going to change potentially a little bit as we now go into Blood Covenant for the final match. Remember, it's the Athena versus BJ matchup. Now, with kind of how we've seen things go so far, where ZenAku has consistently been in a better position, he has been more accurate too. He's been hitting a lot more of these shots, and the damage has been perfectly fine. BJ versus Athena. So, if GNiK, the one edge you can have is that completely unrivaled mobility, right? And that's just what Athena brings to the table. We know that GNiK plays Athena well. However, I caught that. I caught that at my end. I didn't know if the stream would get that. It's unfortunate for him that we did. But what I'm thinking is, if essentially how the other two maps have been going continue the same way, we've now got the dual wield versus another light situation. So should we would normally be looking at this kind of map with these kind of picks and think, oh no, Athena, there's a large advantage there to be had. But with just how these last two maps have gone, I just don't know if I can confidently say the same thing. I still think ZenAku, even though he's not going to have the mobility here, I still think that he's likely to have a 3-0 day.
I mean, you can't count him out. I mean, didn't feel like GNiK has got close to taking a map away. I completely agree with your fears, actually. I think it's less so. I believe the dual wield, particularly in this matchup, will be more impactful from that range game, as you spoke about a little bit in the start of the series, using it from longer range with the heavy machine gun. That'll be impactful. If you're popping it in combat, the Athena can just scoot away, whereas if you're catching him off guard, like on the pick up a mega or pick up the heavy, that's where you can really shred her, and she hasn't got a lot to work with. So once again, it plays into the way that ZenAku likes to play, which is strong foundation and positional gameplay. So GNiK definitely needs to be hitting his shots if he wants to survive this one. You can already see that ZenAku's popping it, as we just spoke about.
Dual wield. Yep. That's what it's all about. The ranged dual wield. Even without a rail in hand, look at how much dominance ZenAku has been able to just push forward. Constantly running away. The armor, just not even able to get a footing in that first fight. Bloody hell.
Yeah, man, that just sets the tempo for this game.
There's just something about what's going on that ZenAku just seems to have this complete holding on GNiK's playstyle. ZenAku, this is not the first time these two players have gone head-to-head. This was supposed to be an opportunity for revenge.
Yeah, this is almost how it went down in the first game, where it was unexpected at the time, I'd have to say, but I remember ZenAku made it look relatively convincing and doesn't seem to have shifted at all, and it is maybe a playstyle clash, as you pointed out, and at this point in time, GNiK struggling with the methodical play that ZenAku shows us.
Dual wield on the rail. He's going to dual wield and push forward again. GNiK not quite able to stop ZenAku from pressing the advantage. Nice. Here comes the fight at last. GNiK presses. And finally, 1-1. And this is a good opportunity for him because it's just in time for the heavy to spawn too. He's going to soak that one up. And ZenAku left licking his wounds. Getting one of the lights, and there's still a light in place. We should be able to go and snap it up. And he has done, but... Right, we'll see how ZenAku plays from behind. Uh-oh. For about 5 seconds until it becomes even again.
Nice to get away from ZenAku there. GNiK did a good job to work that positioning. Really aggressive play from ZenAku there. Forced to get that rail. Pops the dual wheel just to get away. But what a rocket that was.
Fantastic shot for GNiK. And now, again, the second time he's got a frag, but it's right as the major items are going to spawn, which is best case scenario for him. ZenAku, he's only spawned down near sort of catacombs, so the LG is all he's got in hand. And that tri-bolt, that's going to be quite a stressful thing to deal with when you've got no weapons to fight back. GNiK trying to just harass with the rails. But again, ZenAku, we have a rail in hand, and now we can start fighting back a little bit. ZenAku, unless he has that range, it would have been very hard for him to really put a dent in GNiK with how fast he's going, how quickly GNiK can get into position, and just how many rail angles he can hold before ZenAku even gets there.
You can see the difference here. ZenAku not trying to commit for major items, just working the map, trying to forge positioning to catch GNiK off guard. He's done a good job to get GNiK in a position where he's vulnerable, but doesn't do any damage. But he himself doesn't take any, so that's neither here nor there.
GNiK's job of making sure that he's always in a better position for these items. And that mobility is going to matter so much in this kind of situation, where, especially if the items spawn quite close together, there's just no way BJ can be as fast on the uptake. But it looks like ZenAku's not particularly interested in fighting for it. He wants to play this slow game. He wants to get himself into position first. Has to hit those early shots. And he does hit one. Needs a little bit more.
It's the first time we've seen sustained control coming out from GNiK.
More of that dual wield, but it's not going to matter. GNiK just got so much damage. And hang on a minute. All things considered for ZenAku, that's not the worst time to concede a frag. Not when GNiK is as weak as he is, but GNiK opening things up with a good rail. Oh, he's just out of there. Oh, he comes back. He comes back in. Slightly.
So unlucky. You can see how
heads up, and GNiK wants to chase it first.
He knows there is such a lack of maneuverability from the BJ. That's why we see him patrolling the map, trying to keep that tempo high. ZenAku's doing a great job. Yes, he's not in the lead, but he's doing a great job of resisting that pressure. He's caught here. He will be going down, but the dual rails. If he hits another one, he will get a frag, but just misses the final rail.
And that's once more not only a frag by itself, but right as a major item spawns, GNiK is going to soak up that mega. Looks like he's going to get the heavy as well. And there's a chunky delay in between the two of them, which means that if GNiK can just continue this cycle, continue to present the map,
5-minute warning.
he can keep it going. Just keep both items. But 5-minute warning, looking good for GNiK so far. And ZenAku, he's been trying to play that sort of careful reserve game. He really can't be too aggressive here, because she'll just run rings around you.
No, and at the moment, as you said, GNiK doing the basics well, playing both items. Trying to trap ZenAku by leaving these items up. Doesn't make it pay off. That rail will nullify the pickup, though. As much as ZenAku is staying alive and he wants to just forge one opportunity, I feel like he needs to put a little bit more pressure on these pickups.
Didn't want to dedicate too heavily to a rail there, just in case. But again, it's all about timing. It looks like ZenAku is in a position to get a heavy, but as we now only have a little bit of time left until this map is done, on top of the fact that GNiK just did a nice little chunk of uncontested damage just to make that heavy way less impactful, that was a really good rail. Fantastic shot there from ZenAku. He needs a lot more where that came from, though, if he's going to bring himself back into this map. A 3-0 would be excellent for ZenAku.
Time is ticking away, though. 6 minutes have gone. But now ZenAku's got himself some control. GNiK's in position for this heavy. ZenAku wants to pressure it. Good patience from GNiK. Oh no, he messes up though.
He fumbles it. Fumbles the grappling hook, and ZenAku, is he going to be able to punish this? I mean, having the stack is one thing, but you really need to start making it count with these frags. Unfortunately, misses the rail, but he does hit the second. There's still a decent amount of time before Mega spawns, and ZenAku, in a complete reverse situation, gets the frag right as Mega's going to spawn. GNiK has only spawned with SSG. I mean, he hasn't really got anything to challenge this, and ZenAku likely to see why he wants to be so aggressive.
He's so early. I am fearful for GNiK now. Hasn't made that pressure count as much as he wanted to. ZenAku has sustained the score. He's found him again down below, and he will be going down. And he's already tied it up. It only took him 20 seconds since getting that frag to claw his way back to 4-4 and even take the lead. Oh my god.
So close to just going completely pear-shaped in the blink of an eye. GNiK kind of going for the forbidden fruit a couple of times, fresh off the spawn, and ZenAku just has that perfect read on where he's going to go, and he knows that he hasn't got any weapons, so why do I have to worry about it?
Yeah, I mean, that risk over at heavy was just... yeah, the calculation wasn't there.
And just listen to this, ZenAku. Just completely no shyness at all of going through those jump pads.
Nice.
Normally things that you have to be so careful about, and ZenAku's just breezing his way through them.
Well, now ZenAku's comfortable. This is the way he likes to play. Play the items, suffocate your opponent, and don't get anything. And GNiK needs to play really strong if he wants to get out of this one. Nice and careful from ZenAku, and GNiK's managed to work himself a decent now stack, but hasn't got a rocket, so he's going to struggle, and he runs straight into it. Oh, that was close.
ZenAku just could not get the damage in that fight. The dual wield, you'd almost think that maybe DJ had the edge there. But just like that, a minute and a half on the clock. ZenAku, not an amazing position unless he can hit these rails. The light's going to go in his favor. 5 seconds now until the heavy. Looks like GNiK's going to play a little bit more of a careful, patient game. Heavy's going to get taken a long time until that Mega's going to spawn.
Yeah, GNiK should have tried to, I feel, protect that rocket, but now he's given up position. It means ZenAku's got an easy pickup for this Mega. GNiK just needs to run. There's not much he can do now in the next minute. He just needs to try and use those audio cues to play the map, chip away at his opponent. Because if he's caught, he's going to die. Don't even think he's got time to stick around for this heavy. He needs to get out.
Oh, no.
At least he's picking a good angle where there's plenty of potential avenues to go down. He can afford to take at least one rail if he's on the retreat and there's light armors nearby, but at the risk of running right into him, a scary position, gets the rail. Can he finish the job?
Nice.
And he can get the heavy machine gun at last, GNiK.
Oof, he can breathe now. He can breathe. That was
ZenAku's going to get
well
rail
played.
spawning, though.
I was a bit fearful when he was approaching that heavy that was going to potentially stick around, but did the smart thing, played defensive, and now he's just using those grapple hooks. So it's pretty much impossible for.
Oh yeah, there's
the
no
best
chance.
commits.
There's no chance GNiK's going to go that heavy.
Yeah.
Not a chance. Way too risky. And on the clock at the last minute. I mean, he had to sweat for it, but he's going to inch out that win at the last second here, getting himself at least one map, and that's just BJ flying through the sky. But a good win for GNiK at the last minute. You know, ZenAku, he's going to take the series, but again, when you're both in similar places of the leaderboard, you have to avoid the 3-0 whenever possible.
Yeah, and he made such hard work of that, considering how long he had control for in that map as well. I think execution today was one of the bigger downfalls of GNiK's play. Yes, there were some high-risk maneuvers across all 3 maps, but if he had been hitting his shots as we would have expected him to, they would have worked out. But walking away with 2 maps in a row with 27% rail at this level of Quake, you just cannot do. So aim can make or break series, it can win you tournaments, but if you're not hitting your shots, it's almost impossible to do anything. When GNiK's gameplay is so heavily based on that, it's understandable to see why he struggled so much. But I think there's definitely still a lot of improvement he needs to look at in terms of particularly his defensive play. But when he's on form, like he's a joy to watch. So once again, look comfortable. Particularly when he's got his heavy champions and he can play his nice methodical style. So I would like to see more versatility from him, but as long as it's working, then stick to it.
It almost seems like a hallmark of a player that is less experienced in the world of constant competition that we know GNiK is. He's not a complete newcomer by any stretch, but when you compare him to the likes of like a Tahang or something, he's not as constantly there, right? So there has been this. It's quite common of these players that are kind of up and comers where their perfect form is just not something that you see on a map by map basis. It's not you watch them play and you know what you're going to get every single time. GNiK, there is a bigger air of unpredictability because sometimes he will struggle. Sometimes he will not quite get his footing in there early. And in ZenAku's situation, the complete polar opposite, he looked really good across all 3 maps. Even though he didn't win the final map, he still looked pretty solid in that map in general, especially against the likes of a talented Athena, which is quite a nightmare to deal with on a map like Blood Covenant. So that was our second series of the day. We're going to go for a quick break and set up our third one. Remember, this is week 2, stage 4 of Quake Pro League. Don't go anywhere.